be the one to guide us as we talk and discuss about these things that would benefit our people. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you so much, Bishop Benny Abante, our minority floor leader. We shall now have our national anthem. You may put your right hand on your left breast, and we may start the national anthem. Good morning, one and all. Welcome to our Defeat COVID-19 Committee deliberation. Mr. Speaker, fellow House members, ladies and gentlemen, a pleasant morning to all. Welcome to the Mother Committee meeting of the Defeat COVID-19 Ad Hoc Committee, chaired by our Speaker, Alan Peter Cayetano, and co-chaired by your Majority Floor Leader. Our committee will deliberate today on 3 vital measures that were approved at the subcommittee level by the Social Amelioration Cluster and the Health and COVID-19 Cluster, the House Bill 6709, the COVID Unemployment Reduction Economic Stimulus Act, or the CURES Act, House Bill 6623, also known as the New Normal for the Workplace and Public Services, Public Spaces Act of 2020, and House Bill 6707, mandating the baseline PCR testing for vulnerable groups. We will also discuss and hopefully approve 2 resolutions that seek to expedite and improve the government's delivery of relief and support to those greatly affected by COVID-19 pandemic. Before we proceed, let me extend our appreciation to our hardworking cluster co-chairs, Deputy Speaker Luis Villafuerte Jr. and Representative Lucy Torres Gomez, Chairman Helen Tan, and Janet Loreto Garin, as well as our Deputy Speaker, Loren Legarda, for steering the approval of these measures from the Technical Working Group to the subcommittee level. Their relentless zeal and tenacity in pursuing legislative action on these bills made it possible for us to calendar these measures for the Mother Committee deliberation in the shortest time possible. Sa totoo, hindi ako pinatulog ng mga kasama nating ito, masiguro lang na mapruba ng bill na usapan natin ngayon. Pero seriously, we really have no choice but to fast track the approval of these vital measures. It is of utmost necessity that these bills are enacted into law as soon as possible if we want to rescue our people from further harm and even starvation in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic. Buhay at kabuhayan po ang ating mamayan ay nakasalalay dito. As a result of the lockdown imposed to contain the spread of COVID-19, an estimated 1.2 million workers were displaced and left dependent on the social amelioration package provided by the national government. This number is expected to swell further with the arrival from abroad of some 300,000 overseas Filipino workers who lost their jobs due to the ongoing global health crisis. Dahil walang trabaho, siguradong magugutom ang pamilya ng ating mga kababayan. With an average of 5 members per Filipino family, we can say that 6 million Filipinos risk dying of starvation the moment our national government stops its relief aid. But we all know that the dole-outs do not provide a sustainable living to the people. it's incumbent upon us to come up with an economic stimulus package that assures long-term employment and a robust economy. With the Cures Act of 2020, we seek to create millions of jobs that will drive from infrastructure projects in the rural areas and eventually lead our nation to the path of economic recovery. Through this act, the government will undergo massive investment on public infrastructure, which we describe as shovel-ready projects. Concomitantly, this strategy aims to provide a solid impetus to the government's Balik Probinsya program by generating jobs in the countryside. Kung may trabaho sa probinsya, siguradong mas pipili ng mga kababayan natin na bumalik doon kaysa maggutom dito sa Metro Manila. Of equal importance is the new normal bill that we also aim to approve today. With this measure, we seek to lay the groundwork that will expedite our people's adaptation to the demands of the new normal. As soon as we adapt, businesses can resume operations and workers can go back to their jobs without fear of contracting the dreaded coronavirus. Through safety and health protocols, including physical distancing, we can also keep our families safe and prevent the spread of COVID-19 in our communities. The World Health Organization has declared that the coronavirus will be with us for a long time, and that an effective vaccine against it won't be available for at least a year. Given this scenario, it's imperative that we act decisively, not tomorrow, but today. We cannot be kept hostage in our homes forever in this age of this pandemic. As we create more jobs and try to jumpstart our economy, we also need to work double time to ensure that the health standards and protocols are geared towards protecting the vulnerable sectors of our society. House Bill 6707 establishes baseline PCR testing as the protocol for COVID-19 testing and requires that COVID-19 testing centers be made available, affordable, and accessible to all. Most importantly, this measure mandates PhilHealth to shoulder the cost of testing for vulnerable members of society who shall undergo baseline PCR testing to detect the virus. My dear colleagues, we are now given a rare opportunity to be at the forefront of our collective efforts to save our people's lives, not as frontliners, but as policymakers. Let us rise to this challenge of the times. I urge our fellow members of the House to support these three measures now before us, not for our sake, but for the sake of our children and the future generations. Thank you, and may God bless us all.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Kong Shaki here. Yeah, Mr. Chairman, before we continue, may I move that we dispense with the calling of the roll of the members?
Thank you. There's a motion to dispense the calling of the roll.
Second.
We hear a second. We hear no objections. Said motion is carried. We move to the consideration and approval of bills, resolutions, and committee reports. Number one, House Bill number 6709, an act establishing COVID-19 unemployment reduction economic stimulus, the Cures Fund, and instituting mechanisms for the implementation thereof and appropriating funds therefore. Yes. Yes, I'll recognize Congressman Sharky Palma.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve House Bill number 6709
Okay,
and immediately refer the matter to the plenary for this afternoon's discussion.
Thank you. There's a motion for the approval of House Bill number 6709. Do we hear a second?
Second. I
We hear a
second.
second. We hear no objection. Said motion is carried. Number two, we have the substitute resolution to House Resolution number 807, a resolution urging the national government to fast track the disbursement of the second tranche of the Special Amelioration Program by giving the barangay the power to identify the beneficiaries and disburse the allocation.
Mr. Chairman, likewise, I move that it be approved and the substitute resolution be immediately pass on for the plenary's discussion this afternoon.
Thank you. There's a motion. We are second.
I second.
Second.
We have no objection. That motion is carried. Substitute resolution to House Resolution number 821, a resolution expressing the commitment of the House of Representatives to work with the Department of Agriculture to pass the proposed supplemental budget of the department to support its programs to address the COVID-19 pandemic, particularly in the areas of food security and price stability. We will entertain now a motion. Yes, I recognize Congressman Sharky Palma.
Mr. Chairman, I reiterate my motion to approve the substitute resolution to HR 821 and immediately send the resolution for immediate discussion in the plenary this afternoon. So move, Mr. Chair.
So we'd like to thank the sponsors, Deputy Speaker Luis Raymond El Rey Villafuerte and Representative Lucy Torres Gomez, the co-chairs of the Social Amelioration Cluster, for sponsoring said measures. The next bill to be considered, the sponsor is the chairperson, our Deputy Speaker, Loren Legarda. It's for the substitute bill to House Bill 6623, an act establishing policies and regulations and public health safeguards for the better normal for the workplace, the public places, and communities toward sustainable recovery from COVID-19 pandemic. Would the good Deputy Speaker Loren Legarda want to speak before the passage of or the approval of said measure? Deputy Speaker Loren. Kindly unmute the speaker of Deputy Speaker Loren. Thank
Can
you.
I now?
Good morning, Deputy Speaker.
Hi, good morning. Can I be heard loud and clear?
Loud and clear, ma'am.
Congratulations to our Majority Leader. Congratulations to all our esteemed colleagues for CURES, PESA, FIST, the SAP, and many more in all the clusters. And thank you for establishing this new cluster. I actually have a prepared sponsorship measure, but in the interest of time, and I saw that the others did not have to read it, I would just want it to be inserted into the record because I know that we still have session later and I can just say it in my sponsorship if the Majority Leader so wishes. I was preparing, but it's, you know, it's a couple of pages. I can just read it in my sponsorship speech on the floor, and I will support what you mentioned earlier in the sponsorship of the other measures that were just approved, Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you so much, Deputy Speaker Loren Legarda, for that.
Majority
Leader.
Leader.
Oh yes, yes, Chairman Roman Romulo.
Yes, Majority Leader, with the permission of the Speaker and of course our Chairperson and Deputy Speaker Loren Legarda, I have no objection to this bill. In fact, I participated during the technical working group and cluster meetings. But earlier, I was asking our committee with respect to the counterpart measure in the Senate. And most of these bills, I think, will have counterpart measures. But because of the time constraint, because we only have, I think, until June 3 next week, I was proposing to the Deputy Speaker, Loren, one of the portions, one of the sections or subsections in her bill deals with the academic calendar, opening of the academic calendar. And since we only have until next week, and I wasn't sure if there is a viable counterpart bill in the Senate, would it be possible for us to also have a separate measure approved by this committee to be taken up by the plenary this afternoon, giving flexibility to the President and to the Secretary of Education to declare, because of the COVID-19, a beginning academic calendar at the time most appropriate to protect the health of our children, not as stated now in the law up to August, end of August or August 24. Would that be legally possible, Majority Leader, since we are in a committee anyway?
Yes, yes, I recognize your concern there, and definitely we could entertain that at the pleasure and with the conformity of our cluster chair, DS Loren. We can take that up later this afternoon on the plenary, Chairman Roman.
Yes, Majority Leader, what would that mean? It would be a separate bill this afternoon, just in case that the Senate does not have a counterpart bill and they will not be able to pass the measure before we adjourn sine die. That's why my proposal for this committee now is that we consider just that portion, authorizing the President and the Secretary of Education some flexibility to declare a calendar, academic calendar, at the proper time when they so think that the DepEd is prepared and the health of our students and teachers are well protected. And my thinking is that since this is a committee and we are authorized to do that in the different committees, that if it is approved here as a separate substitute, another bill, and a motion is properly made later on to take it up also this afternoon, just that portion, at least we are assured that in the Senate, they also have a counterpart bill exactly dealing only with the academic calendar, beginning of the academic calendar.
Majority
Well,
Leader, can I say something?
Yes,
Yes,
is that
El Rey.
Deputy Speaker El Rey? Yes.
Majority Leader, I share the sentiment of Roman. However, I think this should be a separate measure, di ba? We only have di ba, one title, one bill. The resetting of the school calendar is timely that we should do that, but I suggest we should not integrate it in part of the new normal. However, Roman, I understand that there's already a pending Senate bill.
Yes.
And may I propose, Congressman Roman, if you file that today, it's Thursday today, we can second read that next week because it's a simple one-liner. And I understand, Majo, if you can confirm, I think we are extending. Are we extending, Majo?
Actually, Deputy Speaker is correct. We shall be having a special or an extended session on Thursday next week. No, so that will be announced either later this week or first hour next week at the clearance of our speaker. However, DSLA, I believe since the matter that our chairman Roman Romulo is taking up is germane, no? To
Yes.
this initiative that we are about to
Yes.
pass, we'd be more than happy if the cluster co-chair or the cluster chair, Deputy Speaker Loren Legarda, is amenable to that. We could actually take up the amendment before we actually approve the same. If that is okay with the Deputy Speaker Loren Legarda, for she may be more sensitive to
Majo,
this.
I will
Yes,
submit to you. I will submit to your wisdom. However, I'm just concerned because it's easier to approve a one-liner on the resetting as against a new normal as part of the bill because it
No.
might take time for the Senate, Roman.
Yes. But DSL Ray, in fact,
Yeah.
it is in the new. It is included in the new normal bill of DS Loren Ligarda. What I am requesting, since na-approve namin sa TWG, but then baka wala nga sa Senate na counterpart yung new normal bill, maybe we can this committee, which is the mother committee, could approve a separate untitled bill, which could be taken up later on second reading because it actually forms part of the approved TWG or subcommittee of DS Loren. But since maraming portions po ito, DSL Ray, as you were the one who originally wrote this new normal bill, marami ho siyang iba-ibang aspeto. Baka hindi ma-take up agad sa Senado. Sa atin po, I think this was exhaustively taken up in the TWG by DS Loren, by the committee secretariats, and they spent sleepless nights finishing this thing and debating on this matter. But again, the work in Congress may be different. We don't know how they will accept it. So, but it, as Majority Leader pointed out, it is germane to the topic. It deals with COVID-19. It is actually in this new normal bill. All I am requesting is that could I make a motion to make a separate bill this morning in this committee, so that this afternoon that separate report, substitute bill also can be taken up on second reading. It's a simple bill, as you said, DSLRA.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
agree
Thank
with
you so
you.
much. Thank you so much, Chair Roman, and of course, DS raised very, very important point of the time element. But if we really want to expedite this adaptation of the amendment, of course, if again, I would always defer to our very, very venerable Deputy Speaker Lauren Legarda, our cluster chair. If she would be amenable to accepting an amendment now, that is very, very much in order. However, if we want to pursue this at a different level, where we would like to reconcile whatever differences we may have with the Senate version, the BICAM committee conferences is available, but that may also take a bit more time.
Yeah.
Or simply put, with our friends in the Senate, they may even adopt our version. But I understand that. But I'd really, really like, if possible, DSLA and Chair Roman, to hear from Deputy Speaker Lauren Legarda,
Yes.
if she is amenable and would be willing to accept your proposal, Chairman Roman.
Yes.
DS Loren, let's recognize DS Loren, Deputy Speaker Lauren Legarda. Okay. Is she muted right now? Ma'am? Deputy Speaker Loren. Kindly unmute her speaker so that she can be heard. This is to our committee secretariat. We can see her speaking, but we can't hear her. Do we have some technical difficulties with the sound system or the audio of Deputy Speaker Loren? We'd very, very much like to hear her.
Now?
Oh, there we can hear her now. Thank you so much.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you very much, Majority Leader Martin, DSL Ray, and Congressman. We spoke this morning. It's actually very simple. This is an amendment to Republic Act 7797,
Yes.
where we don't have to open classes by the last week of August, which is mandated by this old DepEd law of 7797. In fact, DS Villanueva had filed a measure which I co-authored, a simple one-liner of allowing the DepEd to open whenever they deem fit. There is a Senate counterpart, Congressman is correct, and in fact, the DS Villanueva bill, which I co-authored, is pending in the Basic Education Committee, which is chaired by Congressman. So I'm not certain whether you've had a hearing on this, but this is already also included in the new norm provision in our bill. Now, I know you're concerned that we should pass it so that DepEd will have the flexibility to move it after August. So my suggestion is, if you could just sponsor the simple DS Villanueva bill, which I co-authored, which is under your committee, and that can be, if it's passed, because it's identical to what the Senate has, we can excise that from the new norm because it's already a law based on what you will sponsor in your committee. But that's only if you have had a hearing on that already and if it is ready to be sponsored. But if not yet, I will be amenable to whatever agreement the leadership will have today on that portion of postponing the opening of classes. So
Okay.
I hope here there will not be any duplication, because once that simple bill of postponing classes is passed, it will automatically let the simple provision in the new norm be moot kasi batas na yung isa. So there's no
Yes.
problem in the new norm. So my only question is, would you want to sponsor it? But if you've not had any hearing of the Villanueva bill, which I co-authored, then that's a little issue there. So my question is, how will you be able to sponsor it this afternoon when it is still pending in your committee?
Yes.
That's the question to Congressman Romulo. Yes.
Yes. Majority Leader, could I respond?
Yes, please. You are recognized, Congressman.
Yes.
In fact, also, I'd just like to reiterate, no, that again, if your amendment is amenable, and if there are no objections from DS Loren Legarda to accept the same, we can actually take it up this morning to
Yes.
obviate the need to go through the other processes, because I think
Yes.
what DS Loren contemplates, I don't think that's been taken up yet. So that might take a little bit more time. So if you would like to propose some in brief and in sum, the amendment that you have in mind, you can ask DS Loren to consider it.
Yes. Thank you, Majority Leader. In fact, there are, that is correct, there are several bills pending before our committee and the Higher Ed Committee. That's why it's always subject to a joint committee. That, I think, is the problem there. But when this was put now into the new normal, I think this was the best way. Unfortunately, the counterpart measure may not pass in the Senate in time. So may I propose that I have a motion that we have a substitute bill taking only into account the portion of the new normal substitute bill with respect to the empowering or authorizing the President and the Secretary of Education to be able to be flexible enough to move the academic calendar during times such as this when there is COVID-19 or any emergency or national health crisis.
So you're saying that, yes, how will we do it? You're saying that the single provision of the new norm bill will be tackled this afternoon and passed so that the Senate can also pass their single provision, and that can be harmonized so that before we adjourn next week, it's already a law and DepEd can extend the opening of classes beyond August. I'm not sure, however, that can be done because we're passing a law and we're excising a single provision. So we have to deal with that with the Secretariat. I'm not sure that is possible, Congressman. As much as I support your suggestion, there is a bill pending in your committee addressing that issue. I'm
in a joint committee, yeah.
Yeah. So, would you like to sponsor that? Would you like to sponsor it if you're ready with it this afternoon? But I would leave it to the Majority Leader how to
Yes.
decide.
Again, Deputy Speaker, I would also leave it to the House leadership and, of course, to the Secretariat if we could do it this way. The issue with the referrals, it will be taken up in a joint committee meeting because there various bills were filed, some only with DepEd, some with DepEd and CHED at the same time. That's why there was a TWG formed for that. Unfortunately, the time may not be enough to pass it by next week. So hopefully, because this is also a committee similar to the regular committees we have in Congress, wherein the committee, in fact, is empowered to have substitute bills, just as we did from the original bill of the DSLRA. And at this point, we will just have another sort of it will be two substitute bills to the original proposal of DSLRA. DSLRA had this new normal bill. This is the substitute bill that you're now proposing to the mother committee. What I'm saying is that it may be possible that the original bill of DSLRA be broken in by this committee into considered into two substitute bills. One encompassing everything already contained in the new normal bill, and one just very simply about the academic calendar. Simply because we will be adjourning sine die. That is the only reason why, and there's to give the President and I guess the Secretary of Education some flexibility. That is the only appeal.
Majority Leader, can I speak?
Yes, I'd like to recognize Deputy Speaker El Rey Villafuerte. And after you speak, Deputy Speaker El Rey, I would like to set this matter aside for the moment and then proceed to the next sponsorship of substitute bill, House Bill number 6707 by Chairperson Helen Tan and Janet Green. But we will defer it until we would have a brief side teleconference with the respective COSs to just thresh that some of the details out. DSLA, you're recognized.
Thank you, Majo. I think the objective and the points of Congressman Roman is, I think no one will disagree, no? I think, Majo, we need your wisdom. See, DS Loren also made a point. I think basically what we need here is a procedural matter, how we can achieve the goal of passing it, no? And I think Congressman Roman will agree. My question, Majority Leader, since this is a rules issue, yung sinasuggest ba ni Congress Roman na pwedeng mag-substitute bill from an existing bill, kumbaga na hati? Is that possible, Majority Leader?
Well, that will actually not be the most expedient way, no, to go about it, because we would like very much to move this forward as efficiently and as quickly due to the time constraints. That is why, if I may, defer the matter while we will conduct a brief side teleconference with the respective COS staff and the rules staff, just to thresh out some details that I would rather take at the side, you know, on a sidebar, no. So you're correct, DSLA. There are some complications with some of the propositions vis-a-vis the time constraint we have. So as much as possible, if we could just defer it for a few minutes, okay, while we skip first to substitute bill of the health and COVID-19 response subcluster, and we will revert back to this after its consideration. So yes, DS Lauren would like to be heard.
Yes, before we so my understanding here is we will not adjourn this meeting until we have the wisdom of the committee secretary of whether we could just approve immediately this afternoon the single provision suggestion on the moving of classes, while the other elements of the new norm will be in a different sponsorship. Parang hinati yung substitute bill into substitute bill, new norm, classes of DepEd, and all the rest in others. So let's just check the procedure if that's correct. Number two, I would just like to indicate on section 9B regarding the mandate of the ICT under the bill. The provisions of the bill is a consolidation of the proposed amendment of Kong Daza and Kong Victor Yap. We have to consult the DICT on their preference of the language and the specifics of the provisions, and they've requested to be allowed to submit it by noon. So I would just like to make a motion during this DCC meeting that the submissions of a DICT be included as part of the amendment of the substitute bill. I actually accepted the amendments of our colleagues, but since it's technical, I wanted to make sure that the words were accurate based on the ICT language. That's all. Yes.
Okay.
Oh, I have a note here before I go. The ComSec already answered me. Attorney Naring Guevara said, we may not be the proper committee to take over the specific proposal of Kong Roman, because if the bill of DS Villanueva and my bill on moving the classes, the single provision bill is in the Basic Education Committee. So
yes, yes.
I leave it to the majority leader how that will be possible.
Yes, ma'am. To Deputy Speaker Loren Legara. Yes, if we may, with your indulgence, we would like to first defer the consideration of the approval of your measure, subject to some brief consultations with the respective committee secretariats of the committees, as you have just mentioned, and we shall revert back to it after we hear the substitute bill in the health cluster. So we shall defer the consideration and the resolution of the approval of your measure, subject to some brief consultations with the respective committee secretary.
After, I will wait for you and stay on here. Okay, I'll just wait a while until they consult, and we'll be last. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you for everyone's patience and forbearance on this, but we shall definitely resolve it in one form or the other before we adjourn this committee hearing. So thank you, ma'am. We will defer the substitute bill to House Bill 6623 for the moment. And we now proceed to the sponsorship by Congresswoman Janet Garin of substitute bill to House Bill number 6707, an act mandating the conduct of the baseline polymerase chain reaction COVID-19 testing for the vulnerable members of the society to stop the transmission of the disease. We could have either co-chair, Kong Helen Tan or Janet Garin do the sponsorship of this measure. We will recognize Congresswoman Janet Garin at this juncture.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, the act encouraging a baseline polymerase chain reaction, COVID-19 testing for vulnerable members of the society for the purpose of intercepting COVID-19 transmission, underwent a thorough discussion among members of the House of Representatives together with a resource persons. However, just this morning and until tonight, I was receiving inputs from many of our specialty societies and medical practitioners. So if I may, first and foremost, the intention of this proposed measure is for us to be able to intercept COVID-19 transmission. As we all know, many of the infections apparently are asymptomatic, and we have to know the real extent of the infection. Be that as it may, there was a huge, an extensive debate on the costs because apparently it varies. And since PhilHealth already started with an initial maximum rate of 8,150 and now apparently being reduced to 4,000, there are a lot of other computations as well. That is the reason why we decided to just forgo with the cost and leave it to PhilHealth. But Mr. Chair, if I may, though it is not included in the proposed measure submitted to the members of this honorable body, may we propose that on top of this, the word pooled be considered. It means an act mandating the conduct of pooled baseline polymerase chain reaction. And in the objectives, we also add maximize government resources by utilizing pooled PCR testing among vulnerable asymptomatics. The beauty of this is that if we say pooled, like example in Congress, if we have 1,000 employees, you can just pool 10 people in one area, like related or similar offices. So from 1,000 tests that you're supposed to be conducted, divided by 10, that will yield only 100 tests. That will actually make testing more efficient, mas mabilis po siya, and much less costly. Just like the OFWs coming, well, of course, because they are more exposed, a pooled testing of 5 OFWs can actually be done. But for the vulnerable asymptomatics in the Philippines, we can actually have like pools of 10. Ibig po sabihin, example in the among social workers, if we test 10 of them, what will happen is for a test result that will be negative, ibig sabihin yung 10 yun, negative na yun. This is the same thing that's being done by Japan and by other countries now, and we have enough literature to support that. With that, Mr. Chair, distinguished colleagues, I move that House Bill number 6707 with the incorporated inclusion of the word pooled instead of individual PCR testing be adopted by this august body.
Well, before we entertain that motion, Congressman Deputy Majority Sharkey, we presume obviously this has been in consultation with your co-chair, Helen Tan, and if there are no issues or objections from your members in your subcommittee or in your cluster, then we can already take up this matter. Congressman Sharkey Palma, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, just one clarification from the Congresswoman Janet Garin. The term pooled that she wants to insert as an amendment to the title of the House bill, is this did this undergone the nakausap na po ba ang mga members ito, and are the provisions in the House bill kumbaga nag-confirm ba siya sa concept na pooled ang gagawin natin?
Mr. Chairman, in the during the initial hearing, there was discussion of how we are going to do it, because we were actually considering the cost, and during the time the cost was pegged at less than 2,000 pesos. But then after due consideration, when our co-chair also mentioned that many of the hospitals and PhilHealth was not keen on having a price ceiling, and we leave the pricing to PhilHealth, then we took away the ceiling price of 2,000. Be that as it may, because there are a lot of various kits. Some are made in China, some are made in Korea, some are made from abroad, and they have special preferences because the testing kits have their own unique characteristics. So the discussion and the cost was actually resolved with the PSMID, the Philippine Society of Microbiologists and Infectious Disease, and the Philippine Society, and some pathologists submitted their proposal of a pooled mechanism. I think the same mechanism is now being studied by the Department of Health. We are just deciding whether 10 will be an appropriate number. So I told them that could be discussed in the IRR, precise for us to say that a pooling testing will do away the nuances. Kasi nga yung unang tinatanong na lahat, if that will, how much will be the cost? Because if it will be like 10% of the population and you put it at 4,000 pesos, then that would be roughly around 44 million, which is that can actually pull down PhilHealth. But then if you reduce that by 10, because you will have pooled testing, then you will only have 4.4 billion, which is highly acceptable.
But Mr. Chair, with all due respect to
Yes,
the author.
Kong Sharkey,
Yeah,
yes.
Mr. Chair, I would like to propose that instead of amending the title here in the committee, kasi pag ginawa po natin yan, magbabago po ang ating committee report, and we need to prepare for the committee report immediately, because we need to submit this bill for plenary's discussion this afternoon. So baka po magtagal tayo dyan at it will cause delay on the delivery of the committee report to the plenary. May I suggest instead, Mr. Chair, that we approve this House Bill number 6707, and then perhaps later, in due time in the plenary discussion, maybe we could propose as an individual amendment, or as an individual amendment to change the title and therefore conform with what the former secretary is suggesting, na i-insert yung pool na term. So if that would be amenable to the good former secretary, I would like to propose to approve House Bill 6707 as it is worded now, and then amend the title later on in the plenary discussion.
Now, if the good co-chair will entertain that very, very insightful proposal of Deputy Majority Floor Leader Sharky Palma, who will actually be on the floor this afternoon to entertain that amendment. I believe this is in pursuit of the expediency of the time elements. I think I would highly recommend that the good co-chair, Dr. Janet Green, our former Secretary of Health, will agree to proposal of Kong Sharky Palma that we already approve and adopt this subcommittee report, and that the mother committee, the DCC, this committee already approved it, so we can have this brought to the plenary. And any refinements and amendments can be taken up on the floor, as we have done in the past. Madam, yes.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I actually don't have any objection. And the reason I opened that up is to give peace to everybody that since the specific ceiling on costing was removed in the original bill, and there are claimers and questions whether it might deplete PhilHealth, or considering that there are a lot of non-COVID and that the new normal will entail a lot of costs on healthcare, I put that forward for the record.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, if I may, will it be possible for us to defend the bill next week so that PhilHealth can actually come up with an appropriate costing?
I would strongly recommend that we take it up later this afternoon. As soon as we approve your subcommittee here and we report this out to the plenary, we would highly encourage that we deliberate this matter tonight so that we have the stronger possibility of having this measure passed on third reading next week, Madam Madam Co-Chair, former Secretary Janet Garin. So that's how I recommend.
I submit to your wisdom, Mr. Chair.
Thank you so much. So, Kong Sharky Palma, we will have your motion that you propose that this measure.
Thank you.
Could you reiterate your motion?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, and our colleague, Congresswoman Janet Garin. With that, Mr. Chair, I move that we approve House Bill number 6707 and request that it be immediately brought to the plenary for plenary discussion this afternoon. So move, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. There's a motion. Do we hear a second?
Second, Mr. Chair.
Thank you so much, our esteemed minority floor leader. There is a second. We hear no objections. Said motion is carried. Thank you so much, and congratulations to the health cluster co-chairs and their members for the swift passage of their report. We shall hear the very, very wise proposed amendments later this afternoon. Thank you, Madam Co-Chair Janet Garin. At this point, we would like to revert back to the consideration of the substitute bill of House Bill 6623. And I then would now want to revisit the method and the process that Kong Sharky Palma has proposed, that we similarly approve the subcommittee report of the new normal cluster, and that we take up the concerns that Kong Roman and the Kong LA has brought up on the floor this afternoon. If that is okay with the Deputy Speaker, Loren Legarda, the chair of the new normal cluster, we can entertain a motion from our Deputy Majority Floor Leader, Kong Sharky Palma, who will be on the floor for the passage of your committee report, your subcommittee report to the DCC, the mother committee, which we are presiding over now, so we can report this out to the plenary, and we can take up the finer points of the proposed amendments of Congressman Roman Romulo later this afternoon. Any refinements will be taken up in the plenary, and that will afford a swifter passage and a more deliberate discussion of these matters. Madam Deputy Speaker Loren, are you amenable to that?
Yes, Kong Martin, Majority Leader, I just wanted to clarify. The provision on the postponement of classes has already been passed by the Senate on second reading this week. They will pass it on third reading. It's a simple, no-cost bill. And in fact, we are sending bills, as I told Kong Roman, in its Basic Education Committee. It is only a small part of our whole new norm, which is so important. So let not that little issue be a hindrance towards the passage of our new norm initiated by DFL Ray and the Speaker in this BCC. So I'm hoping that is that a motion to approve it in your committee in the DCC?
Yes, Madam Deputy Speaker. If Kong Sharky Palma, who will be on the floor this afternoon, will also be allowed to make a similar motion as we did for the health cluster on the approval of your subcommittee report, so that the DCC, our committee, can report it now out to the plenary, and those fine points, those insightful recommendations for proposals of Chair Roman Romulo and that even of Deputy Speaker Elric can be entertained on the plenary discussions this afternoon po.
Yes, because I was informed that after the Senate passes that postponement of classes bill, we can just adopt it in the House. So walang problema. Yes, it's a simple
Mr.
measure.
Chair.
Yeah.
Yes, Congressman Sharky Palma, our deputy.
Mr. Chair, yes, thank you. With the indulgence of the Deputy Speaker Lauren. Yes, Mr. Chair, I subscribe to the view of the Deputy Speaker Lauren Legarda. If there is a pending bill before the House of Representatives and the Senate approve a bill, we may similarly just adopt the version of the Senate, which may be with the current situation, which may turn out to be more expeditious than arguing with this particular provision to as what we have been discussing for a few minutes now. Na baka hindi ko rin nakikita po na pwedeng tanggalin yung certain provision na yan and then make it into a different or another substitute bill, because a substitute bill must originate from a bill itself, and taking away a certain provision from a bill, mukhang hindi po possible ata. But I subscribe to the view of DS Lauren that if there is a bill already approved on third reading by the Senate and a similar bill is pending before the House of Representatives, we may actually just adapt the version of the Senate and have it approved immediately on the floor. So anytime by next week, pwede po natin gawin yun.
Yes,
Yes.
thank you. DS Elray, we are recognized. Yes, sir. DS Elray, you kindly unmute the audio of DS Elray. Thank you.
Majo, while we are sidetracked with this, let's not lose focus on the new normal. No? And I understand we will approve it today. However, Majo, I really feel that if Kong Roman sets a hearing tomorrow, we can adopt the measure after second reading. But I think Kong Roman, it's incumbent upon him, if he's here, to, I think, set a hearing either tomorrow or just to put the bill in running, Majo. I know we've been discussing this for more than 20 minutes, but I think if the objective of Kong Roman is to have this approved, hear it in the committee and just wait for the Senate version and adopt it, Majo. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Majority Leader, yes, could I respond?
Yes.
Yes, Majority Leader, I think the only issue, we will abide by the advice and decision of this cluster committee, but just to put it on record, the referral was to the Joint Committee of Basic Education and Higher Education. And I think all members here know how difficult it is to schedule a joint meeting. And there is not only one bill that was filed, there were several bills filed. And again, as a courtesy to each member who was filed, we must hear each and every one of the bills filed. Thank you, Majority Leader.
Thank you so much for all of your suggestions, your insights, and your recommendations. I will now beg the indulgence of all to listen and to hear the motion of Kong Sharky Palma, which will now he will move for the approval of the subcommittee report of DS Lauren Legarda's new normal cluster, and we shall now ask that at that point we shall also bring that matter up to the plenary, and I assure each and every one here that we will be able to deliberate over this even more extensively, and I assure you all points will be heard, and we shall adopt all the refinements by later this afternoon. So, Kong Sharky Palma, we will entertain your motion. Oh, yes, DS Lauren. Yes, please, ma'am.
To reiterate that this is the approval of the substitute bill, but subject to style, because the DICT was clarifying some words, just to make sure. So it's a record subject to style. Yes.
Yes, subject to style. Yes, so Kong Sharky Palma.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I move that the substitute bill to House Bill number 6623 be immediately approved and sent out for plenary discussion this afternoon. So moved, Mr. Chair.
So there's a motion. Do we hear a
Second,
second?
Mr. Chair, second.
Thank you so much, Minority Floor Leader, for the second. We hear no objections. Said motion is passed. We'd like to thank and congratulate the new normal cluster, the chairperson, the very hardworking co-chair, Lauren Legarda, and all your members for your hard work on this. Rest assured that in a few hours, this matter will be again taken up on the plenary session floor, and we shall entertain then all these refinements, and I assure you, all of your points will be very, very thoroughly discussed, and we shall be very confident of the passage of a more refined version of this measure. Thank you so much. So, are there any other matters that the members of the DCC Mother Committee would like to take up at this point? If there are none, we shall entertain a motion to adjourn.
Ligo? Okay na?
I'd like to, Deputy Speaker Aurelio Don Gonzales, you are recognized. Would you like to say something?
Well, I want to congratulate the chairman and the majority leader, and of course, the sponsor. So that's only a manifestation. I'm already the co-author of this bill. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you so much, Deputy Speaker Aurelio Don Gonzales from Pampanga, my dear friend. It's always nice to see you and your active participation in all of this cluster and all these committee hearings that we have. You're still very, very active in all. I see you all the time participating, even if not live, but even your picture. So maraming salamat po. So again, we have a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chair?
Yes?
There being no other matters, I move that we adjourn the DCC committee.
Thank you so much. There's a motion to adjourn. We have no objections there too. So this meeting is adjourned. I'd like to also recognize my good friend, Congressman Teddy Haresco, who is there on the screen. We will see you all again this afternoon at the Zoom plenary session. And we look forward to all of your proposed amendments, if not refinements, to the respective measures that we have taken up this morning. Maraming salamat po at mabuhay po kayong lahat. Take care, stay healthy, stay safe, and as much as possible, stay at home.
Thank you, Majo. Thank you.
Thank you, Majo.
Speaker.